So, prompts. Immediately after the antecedent, immediately after we get everything together, ready, out in front of us that we need to be able to work with our learner and have a successful session, we then need to provide a prompt or a direction to our learner, right? Okay. So prompts are supplemental teaching aids, and there are numerous types that can be used. To give an example, when Jane was first learning to point to the colored cards, a prompt called full gestural prompt might be used. For a full gestural prompt, after the teacher says point to red, she would then immediately point to the red card herself, effectively giving Jane the answer. Only if Jane then responded correctly by pointing to the red card would reinforcement be delivered. Okay? You guys are a little familiar already with our prompting hierarchy that we have. Okay? So as we talk about full prompt versus partial prompt versus independent responding, you should have an idea of what these terms are. If they're not familiar, you can go back in our session and review those areas now. Okay. So after this prompt has been used a number of times and Jane is responding correctly at a certain frequency or a set criteria, right, it might then be faded out to a partial gesture prompt. Remember, this should be terminology that you're hearing again. This time, after the teacher says point to red, she would only gesture about halfway to the red card, right, that partial gesture, or she might just do a partial touch like, hey, a little tap on the arm, and again, reinforcement would be delivered. If Jane progressed, this prompt might also be faded out so that no prompting was there at all, and the expectation would be that she did it independently, all right? When no prompt is used, the prompt level is still defined so it is clear to the teacher. No prompting is defined as independent or sometimes shortened with an I or IND, all right? So let's see our prompt level. We'll get to number 2. And let's talk about our full gestural trials. So with a full gestural trial, a teacher places one red and one blue card on the table, then says point to red. The teacher then immediately points to the red card, full gestural prompt. Jane responds by pointing to the red card when the teacher would say, that's right, great job, okay? There would be a very short pause before a new discrete trial would begin. So that's a full gestural trial, okay? That's what our prompt starts with, is FG or full gesture. All right, now let's talk about partial gestural trials. During a partial gestural trial, a teacher places out still one red card and one blue card, right? That's our antecedent. And then says point to red. That would be our prompt. Okay, so let's just write here, prompt. Sometimes it might be blue, so we'll leave this blank, point to, and then you insert that stimuli that you're testing, whether it's blue or red. Okay? So going back to our partial gestural, the teacher immediately gestures halfway through across the table, then says point to red. Okay? So that's the key, that's the difference, right? So with our full gestural prompt, our teacher set everything up, set up the blue and the red card on the desk in front of Jane. If she needed extra reinforcers, maybe a token economy or a primary one-to-one reinforcer there available for her. Then they provided that full gesture and then the prompt. Point to red or touch red. Okay, whereas now partial gestural, she just maybe pointed right from here. Point to red or touch red. Or gave her a tap behind the arm, okay? And then the expectation is that she still responds by touching that red card, and then the teacher would say, you're right, great job, and provide reinforcement, okay? Now, going on to independent trials. The teacher places, again, antecedent, one red and one blue card out on the table and says, point to red. That's the prompt. Because there is no additional prompt here. There is no pointing partially, no little touch, or no full point or full guiding them to touch it immediately, okay? There is absolutely no additional help. The expectation is this: you give the learner the direction, that initial prompt, with no other supports, okay? And you expect them to do it independently. So again, at an independent level, no additional prompting. You just give the initial prompt, the direction, touch red, and then the learner responds by touching the red card. And then you provide verbal reinforcement. That's right, awesome job, right? And then deliver reinforcement, additional reinforcement if necessary. Okay, good. So that's our